Hi, hello, namaskara. In this session, we'll be seeing the concept of magnetic boundary condition. So, as you remember, we have already discussed the boundary conditions with respect to electric field. So, here we are studying the boundary conditions for magnetic field and how my magnetic effects varies between two different mediums which has different permeability. So there we had two different mediums of different permittivity, and we had actually calculated the components of normal and tangentials of electric fields and electric flux densities, and we got to know how they are going to behave at the boundary conditions. The same thing here, we are studying the magnetic boundary conditions, basically how my magnetic field going to vary, or how it is behaving when it is present between two different mediums. So firstly, to understand this, let us start with the Gauss laws of magnetic fields, so which we have already discussed. The closed surface integral of magnetic flux density times that surface is equal to 0. This is our first basis equation that we'll be using, and the second equation will be my Ampere's circuit law, where it states closed line integral of magnetic field intensity dot dl is equal to the current it is enclosed, I enclosed, we usually say. So these are the two basis equations on which we'll be usually defining the whole boundary conditions. So let us consider a boundary between two magnetic mediums. So here I have medium 1 and medium 2. Okay, so there are two mediums where the two mediums are separated, and they have their own respective characteristics of permeability, that is mu1 and mu2 are their permeabilities. So when I apply a Gauss law for this, Gauss law of magnetics, what I do is, as we did in our electrostatics, here again I am considering a closed surface, or we call it as a Gaussian surface. If you remember, this is a Gaussian surface. So I'm taking an enclosed surface, they call it as a pillbox and all. So I create this surface, and I now calculate what is the amount of flux that is flowing in this direction. So what is entering here and what is leaving here, we'll be calculating that. So if you see this, as I make my height very much 0, or it is near to 0, I can only have the components in the top phase and the bottom phase. So I can show in this manner. So if I say here, so I'll be only seeing the flux which is exiting the top phase and the flux which is entering the bottom phase. So these are the only two fluxes that I can think of. So if I solve for this, as we did in our electrostatics, I can say I'll be getting the flux that is exiting the top surface, or I'll call this as surface 1 and I'll call this as surface 2. Okay, this is surface 1 and this is surface 2, I'll call it as. So the flux that is exiting the top surface of the surface 1 can be written as the normal component B1 of n. So this is the flux that is exiting, B1 of n, times that particular surface. Okay, and the flux that is entering here is opposite to the area vector over here, right? Hence that becomes negative. So this becomes minus the flux that is entering down is B2n, right? So B2n, again the surface area is delta S, and this should be equal to 0 is what our Gauss law stated here. Closed surface integral of all the flux that is entering out or getting out of that surface will be equal to 0. That's what this equation states. But if I see here, B1 of n minus B2 of n, if I take this common, this is what the simplified expression is. But obviously my surface area cannot be equal to 0. So always you can't have this to be 0. Hence in your equation, B1 of n minus B2 of n, that is the normal component of magnetic flux density, should be equal to 0, or in other words, they both are the same, across the boundary, this too will be same. That is, the flux in the second medium should be equal to the flux, that is the normal component of the flux should be equal. And if I take this with respect to my electric field, I mean the magnetic flux density in terms of magnetic field intensity, you know, magnetic flux density is given by permeability times magnetic field intensity, right? So using this, if I calculate the magnetic field intensities over here, I can write this as mu1 h1 n mu1 h1 n is equal to mu2 h2 n. So that means to say the magnetic field intensities are variable because it is varied with respect to the permeability. So if I take a ratio of this h1 of n over h2 of n, they should be if they are equal or if they are same, then this should be equal to 1, but this is not equal to 1 now. This is equal to my permeability of second medium with respect to that of the first medium. Hence they are called as discontinuous. So my magnetic field intensity is discontinuous across the boundary, and this is what we have derived in the first part. Okay. Similarly, if I want to calculate the magnetic field intensity, this is only for the normal component. Okay, this is only for the normal component. So we have only derived for the normal component now. If you see this is what we have solved for, only the normal components. Now coming to the tangential component, to solve for the tangential component, what we do is we try to apply Ampere's circuit law. So that is in this particular figure. So we try to apply Ampere's circuit law where I'll be taking a closed path. If you see here, I've taken a closed path over the boundary where the boundary has a surface current. Whatever they have shown here, it is a surface current. So this is a current vector. Okay, current vector, and current is flowing towards the screen, whatever you are seeing, and this current vector is usually defined as sheet current, which we all have seen, and it is k dot del s, or here it is not del s, it is del w, because that is the width which we are considering here. Okay, so that is the current that is flowing through in that particular path. So as we know again from the Ampere circuit law, which is nothing but closed loop integral of h dot dl should be equal to I. When I apply the same thing here as we did in our electrostatics part, and I make my height to be very much 0. Okay, so that means the vertical components over here, so this vertical component and this vertical component will be getting cancelled off, or that will not be having any effect on, and we'll be only having the effect of the width. The height will be not there. So on solving this particular part, the closed loop integral h dot dl can be simply written as only the tangential parts are available, that is a to b and c to d are only available. Hence that can be written as h 1t, I mean 1t of the width del w, this is h dot dl, minus the second path is this path, that is from c to d. I'm taking from c to d, this is against my h2t, which is h22 is in this direction, and this can be written as minus h2t, again the path traverses delta w, which is equal to the surface current density, that is k dot del w. So this is what we get when I make my height is very much equal to 0. On solving this equation, you'll be getting this. Since I have already done this in class, I have just gone to the straighter step. Hope you will understand. If you don't understand, let me know, I'll help you out. So again, on solving this, I can get the common factors out. So here this can be taken off or neglected. Hence, what this shows is my tangential component h1t minus h2t is discontinuous over the boundary where the boundary has a current flowing through it, a sheet current flowing through it. So this, in terms of my magnetic flux density, can be simply written as b1t over mu1 minus b2t over mu2, which is nothing but my permeability, which is equal to the surface current density. So usually this is how we relate magnetic field intensity to magnetic flux density. Okay, what if there is no current flowing, the current density itself is zero, or I have a free space, the boundary doesn't have any current flowing through it, free current is not there. So that means to say, I can say if there is no current, that means to say k can be equated to 0. So if I make k equal to 0, at that time my equation 3, okay, it is 3, I will call it as 3. So this equation 3 simply becomes what? It is h1t minus h2t will be equal to 0, or simply h1t equal to h2t. So that means to say, if there is no current flowing across the boundary, or it is a charge free region, or the current is not there across the boundary, then the magnetic field intensity will be continuous. That is, a tangential component of the magnetic field will be continuous. Okay, and if you see the B vector or the magnetic flux density, the magnetic flux density will be discontinuous. How? Because b1t by mu1 is equal to b2t by mu2, which is obviously discontinuous because it is varying with respect to the permeability of the medium. Hence, this is the boundary equations for my magnetic field intensity and magnetic flux density in both the normal component and the tangential component. Further simplifying, if there is a field flowing here, so which we have again discussed, like if I have a boundary, say for example, I'll just consider the same thing. If I have a boundary something like this, and there is a magnetic field flowing through this, okay, which makes some angle. So this is theta 1 you can think of, and this is theta. Okay, since this is medium 1, this will be my theta 1, this will be my theta 2. So this is my vector B, you can think of. So if I resolve this, I'll be getting the normal component and the tangential component. Even this, if I resolve, I'll be getting the tangential component and the normal component, right? I might be bit fast because we have already discussed this electrostatics part, so I can just assume that you can correlate all these stuffs. So now if I want to know how the magnetic wave varies at the boundary, what I can do is I can simply apply the allied angle formula, and I can use the Snell's law, and I can solve this, which we have already solved it, that for B1 the flux at cos theta 1, so if I say this is B1 and this is B2, B1 cos theta 1 will be nothing but my normal component B1n, which we have already proved. B1n will be B2n, right? So what is B2n? B2n will be nothing but it is B2 cos theta 2. Okay, similarly if I use my magnetic field intensity's expression, that is h1t minus h2t is equal to 0 for a charge free region, I can write that particular expression as h1 sine theta 1, which is nothing but h1t, which is equal to h2t for a charge free region. This is for a charge free region. If you remember, this is what we have proved, right? From this I am trying to correlate this to this is what we had proved just now. So this is nothing but h2 of t is what? h2 of t is nothing but h2 vector times sine theta 2. Okay, that is, I have derived this from this particular vector, okay, this particular diagram. So if I do this, you can see this h vector can be replaced by what? B1 by permeability. I'm replacing this whole thing with this. Again, I'm replacing this whole thing with B2 over mu2, and I'll call this special equation A and B. Dividing B by A, I can get tan theta 1. Okay, so B and B will be getting cancelled off. It is just mu1 will be equal to tan of theta 2 divided by mu2. So on simplifying, tan theta 1 divided by tan theta 2 will be equal to mu1 divided by mu2, which is nothing but the equation for law of refraction for a magnetic flux lines at the boundary with no surface current. Keep this in mind. This equation is for the law of reflection for a magnetic flux lines at the boundary with no surface current. If the surface current was there, then K would not be equal to 0, right? So if this is not equal to 0, then this cannot be equated. H1 of t cannot be equated to H2 of t. Hence, this equation holds good for a no current, a no surface current. And if you remember, we had a similar expression in our electrostatics part 2, the boundary condition for electrostatics. So that's it for magnetic boundary conditions. Hope you understood this. Please, if you have any queries, do contact me, let me know. I'll help you out. Thank you.